Hey guys, Adam's Furniture Restoration back with you here today on a cold, chilly, breezy March afternoon. Man, it is cold out here. My fingers are frozen. So, for those of you who already know, have been watching the series, this is geared more towards beginners, people who are not familiar with the refinishing process. This piece, as you guys already know if you've been watching, we already stripped it, cleaned it, prepped it, it's ready to be sanded. So, you're going to need a few things. For starters, safety glasses. If you do not have these, go out and get some today. It's like $2 a pair. I mean, get some. Chickadee check yourself before you riggedy wreck yourself, okay? Get yourself some safety glasses. I would get a dust mask for this, for someone who doesn't do furniture all the time. I'm going to use my respirator. I use this for sanding, spraying, all sorts of things. Well, actually no, sanding and spraying. That's pretty much all I use this for. But for me, this is more cost effective. I use this thing every single day. So you don't need anything as, as crazy as this, but definitely get a dust mask, something. You don't want to breathe this crap in. Another thing you will need is an orbital sander. I'm using 150 grit sandpaper on there. You're also going to want to get yourself some, get out of there you, I like 220. This is wet or dry sandpaper. So what I do is I'll take the sheet, fold it in half, rip it in half, and then I fold it into thirds. That's what I like to do. Also get yourself, you don't necessarily need one of these. You can probably get away with it. If you don't have one of these, but if you have some 320 grit, even some 400, you can probably get away with it on this. Even some 4.0 steel wool for the bottom, and I'll show you what that's all about in a second. So, to get started, what we're going to do is, we are going to take the orbital sander and sand the top. If you haven't used an orbital before, if you're not familiar with it, that's perfectly fine. Read the instructions. I don't know how much it's going to help you, but it's better to know your tool a little bit before you use it. So, one of these, you always want to keep it moving, back and forth. Just like anything else, you kind of want to go with the grain as much as possible. These edges are solid. This inlay, this inside section right here, is actually a veneer, so it's very thin. You don't want to park it on a spot for a long time. It's going to dig a groove, it's going to dig a valley, it's going to destroy your piece, make it look like garbage. The other thing is you don't want to get it up on end like that. Now every now and then you'll see me do it. So here's a good example. Where right here, where this is dropped in, it actually sinks in a little bit. So if I was to get to the edge, if I felt that I wasn't getting a spot good enough, I would get it up on end real quick and just go back and forth just to kind of, stand it up, just to, to make it look where I thought it was presentable. Now, mind you, I've been using one of these things for over 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Now, it's not rocket science, you know what I mean? It's not like driving a race car or flying a spaceship. But if you're not familiar with it, don't get it up on angle. Leave it flat. You can get those little grooves. You can get that with the 220. You don't need to go nuts with it. So, without any further ado, we are going to start with the orbital. I'm just going to do a small section. I'm not going to bore you with the entire top. It's just unnecessary. Okay. So, let's show you guys how to do it. Okay. Okay, that's sufficient for now. So as you saw, for the most part, I went back and forth, kept it moving, kept it steady. In a couple sections like this one down here, you saw I went in a circular pattern. That's because there's a little bit of finish on there, and that just chewed it up. That got rid of it a lot faster. But you saw after I was done going circular, I went back with the grain again to just to smooth it out. So as you saw, I mean, it's easy. Just keep going back and forth. One thing with an orbital, every now and then you want to check the pad to make sure there's nothing on there, nothing sticking to it, no gunk or anything like that. sometimes if you get a particle, what have you, it could be anything finish, whatever, if it gets stuck on there, as you're going back and forth, it's going to push in a little bit deeper than the rest, and it's going to leave a circular pattern. And if you don't catch that and you stain it, it's going to look like garbage. So after that is done, where'd they go? Grab your 220, just go over it. Back and forth like that. Go over it a few times, and that's it. That's all you got to do. Let's see. When you're going back and forth, a lot of times, if you're lucky, if there is a swirl mark in there from the orbital, a lot of times the dust will collect in there and you'll be able to see it. But then again, it doesn't happen every time. You don't see it till you stain it, and then you deal with that when it happens. I usually do not use orbitals on the edges. It's a little bit tricky, especially with pine because it's so soft. I mean, you'll tear it up with the quickness. If it's a flat edge, usually I'll always use the orbital. You can just rip it down real quick. But for something like this, I mean, just get the 220 on there. That's all you have to do. And if there's a little bit of extra finish or whatever, just grab it, fold it a smidge. Let's go back and forth real quick. And there you go. And that'll clear it out. That's all you have to do. Now, some people are going to say, why aren't you using a sanding block? For some applications, I would, especially if I had to fill for whatever reason. If I had to fill a void, then I would use the block to make sure that it is flat. But I mean, for a small tabletop like this, I don't think it's necessary to use a sanding block. I never use them for small little jobs like that. I'm not going back and forth like a maniac all day. This is doing most of the work for me. Another thing I should touch back on with an orbital, let the machine do the work. That's why you got it. That's why you bought it. That's why you're using it. It's doing the hard work for you. Don't push down on it. That's not going to do anything. That's just going to put more stress on the motor, and it's going to dig in there, and then you're going to have to do more work with the 220. It's foolish. Anyone who does that just has no idea what they're doing. Let the tool do the work. That's why you have it. And that's pretty much it. Take your 220, sand it out, and you're done. Now, you don't have to use 220. Some people like to use other grits, but as I've said before, this is the method that I use. This is what I have success with. Now, there's some people out there who are going to say, well, why don't you use a belt sander? Belt sanders are the way to go. If you use a belt sander to refinish furniture, in my personal opinion, you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. I have repaired more jobs from Happy Harry homeowner who got ambitious with the belt sander and totally destroyed tabletops, pieces like this. It happens all the time. Now, if you're one of those people who has success with it and you like the way that it looks when you're finished, I mean, by all means, continue to rock and roll with it. I'm not here to preach to tell you what's right or what's wrong. I'm just telling you what works best for me. A belt sander is not designed for a piece of furniture. I mean, it's just not. When it comes to refinishing, you want a nice, smooth top when you're done. It's whatever. If that's what you like to use it. I'll leave it at that. So for the bottom section down here, I'm just going to use the sanding pad. This is a finer grit. I don't know specifically what it is. If you really want to know that bad, I just leave a note in the comment section and I'll look it up and I'll let you know exactly what it is. I think they list it as a fine or a medium fine. It's not coarse by any means, and it's not so super fine where you can barely feel it. I mean, if you go like that on your fingernail, it's going to scratch it up. So it's not, like a 6,000 grit or anything crazy. At the same time, it's not like an 80 or a 60. I'd say realistically, this is somewhere between 220, 320 is probably where it would fall between. But as you guys know, we're refinishing the top. We're just going to touch up and spray the bottom. So all you're looking to do here, just take the pad and just go like that real quick. You want to eliminate any shiny spots. Go like that, get in there. You're going to go over the whole piece. Back and forth, back and forth. You can go circular if you do finish going with the grain, as any other sanding process. And that's all you're going to do. You're going to go over the whole piece and just no shiny spots. The reason for that is if there's any shiny spots when we spray the sealer, it's not going to adhere properly. Down the road, you're going to have issues. It might even happen as you're spraying your final coat or the sealer. It's just not going to grab on properly. It's going to flake off. I mean, furniture expands and contracts just like anything else. So if it's not on there right, it's going to flake off. You're going to have issues. Just take the extra time, sand it, prep it properly. It's all you have to do. And that is pretty much it. So I'm going to finish this up. Like I said, I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing. You guys get the idea. It's very, very simple. This is easy to do. So once I get this all done, I will mix up some stain. We'll come back. We'll stain this bad boy. And if the weather holds out, if it dries fast enough, we'll try to get some sealer on here today. But we'll see what happens. As you guys know, as before, if there are any questions, please leave them in the comments section. If there's something that's not clear enough for you, or if there's something you want to see more of, if you want to actually see me sand the whole top, I will do it. Just leave it in the comments. And as always, do not forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a great day. I'll see you soon.